Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Safety Meeting Podcast. I'm your host, Isaac Heckert. This week's very special guest, Mr. Ross Anderson, joins us all the way from the UK, Wales specifically. We did a little Zoom call. So, what you're about to see or hear is Zoom footage. I'll probably lay the good audio from the Roadcaster over the Zoom audio, but so far it's been a tie up when we've been doing this for other shows. We had a great chat. I met Ross on set of music videos years ago. He's a music video commissioner, was a music video commissioner. Then he owned his own production company, and then he's gone off to do some other adventures. So if you're interested in music video directing, tune in. We get to that early on. First half is music video stuff. So some great insight from a former commissioner on like how to get music video directing jobs, some hangups, some things that are good and bad about being a music video director, what it's like being on set, that kind of stuff. Then we kind of take a turn and do some personal stuff, catch up. We get into religion at the end, which I thought was pretty fascinating. It's interesting to see how people's views and beliefs change as their life progresses, and people they have families and they grow. And it was a really great chat. It was so good to see his face and catch up with him, and I had a really great time talking to him. So I hope you enjoy this episode 54 of the Safety Meeting Podcast with a very special guest, Ross Anderson. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time.
How you diddling?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. It's nice to see your face.
Yeah, this is the studio.
I like it. Wow, that's great. And did you build it yourself out of wood?
All the little fixtures on the wall were built in my wood shop about a year ago.
Yeah.
And then the wood paneling is just cheap flooring from Home Depot that should go on the floor, but I put it on the wall.
Yeah, I like that.
Well,
It works really well.
Actual reclaimed wood is about $20 a square foot, and this is 99 cents a square foot. So we
always thrifty.
That's right. For now, until we get that Ross Anderson money in here, and then we're gonna do it up right.
Yeah. How are my teeth?
They're great.
Yeah,
nice and straight.
Like LA enough.
Yeah,
not really. They're a bit yellow compared to yours, even you.
Well,
anyway.
My webcam is like 900 years old, so I'm trying to light for this webcam. What I normally do is I'll shoot it on a better camera, so I look great, and then I'll just screen grab the guest. But I did a Zoom last week, and it worked out great. What are you drinking?
White wine. I'm 3 glasses down, so you'll be getting the uncensored floppy version. But I thought, well, why not just keep to the same old sort of, as we normally do,
right?
Professionally, and in unprofessional situations, of which we've been in many.
Yeah, we wherever we go, when the work is done, we like to drink.
Yes, quite. Yeah, I wasn't alluding to the fact we were drunk on set because that would be illegal.
Never. Except that one time that we're not going to talk
about. So how's things?
Things are going weird. We're in the middle of a lockdown, but I still get to come here by myself. Are you guys locked down?
Yes, we are. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Some states have decided that that's just bullshit, and they're just going to do whatever they want.
We've been watching with as I can talk now. Am I your first guest from the UK?
Yes.
Brilliant. So I can talk for the whole of the UK. That's fantastic. I'm sure they won't mind.
Yeah, I have 2 listeners in Spain, but I have no idea who they are, unless you have a VPN.
Yeah, which is not part of the UK. So same thing. But so I'm on the white wine. Cheers.
Cheers.
We're on the coffee.
Yeah, the decaffeinated coffee per the doctor's order.
Right. Did you? Why? Why is it doctor's orders?
Because apparently I've been having sleeping problems for the last 100 years. And the doctor said my high blood pressure was because I was consuming 700 milligrams of caffeine every day.
Cocaine. Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
And apparently I was doing the Michael Jackson where I'd caffeinate all day, and then to get off the caffeine buzz, I would drink alcohol and smoke weed to bring me back to sleep, and then I wasn't getting good sleep. So I'm on the decaf for about a month now. And
good for you.
I feel great.
I had a similar conversation, but I went to a Chinese acupuncturist who said in Chinese, and it was through a translator, that you should stop drinking coffee and generally sort your life out, but eat something warm in the morning. Yeah. And which I did, and I got these banging headaches
Yeah.
for like 2 weeks, which was just unbelievable. And then and I thought, well, why would I ever drink coffee again? And I haven't drunk coffee again for it's 10 years ago.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you ever have a
Because I like the smell of it, but I don't miss it.
Yeah.
You know,
I
I'm still on the crack and the rest of it, you know. But I got rid of the coffee.
still mainlining everything else.
Exactly.
Oh, that's funny. So which one of your states am I talking to you from today?
States. Well, the state of Wales.
Right. Estates. Like you guys don't have houses either. You have estates, like with an E.
Oh, estates.
Yeah.
I thought you meant the states, as in yeah. So I'm in Wales, in our house in Wales, halfway up a mountain.
Right.
I can't show you now because it's dark, but we live in a place called the Black Mountains, which is well, there's a lot of weather. Let's put it that way.
Rain, particularly.
But it's great for lockdown. When we got here, we thought, is this a really good idea? And didn't think it was a very good idea because we're in the middle of nowhere. And then we realised when lockdown came that actually it's not a bad place to be. Got some space.
Yeah.
There's not loads of people.
Yeah.
And we've got some space just to hang out, really, which is not, to be honest, we've been on lockdown since like 3 years ago. So this is not a major difference apart from the fact we have to queue up at the shop, you know.
You guys practically locked down like the day I left London, I think.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Because we just shot we were one of the last people to shoot, I think, we shot a thing for Red Bull in London, and everybody was like social distancing and washing their hands, but nobody had masks on, you know. But it was almost like a sort of vision of the future of filmmaking, because everybody was like keeping their distance, and you know, it was quite nice. And as far as I'm aware, nobody got ill. So, you know, I haven't done a proper check, but you know what I mean? Like I haven't gone through the whole cast list and crew list, but it was, you know, it was sort of felt like, you know, the way that it will go. Nobody shaking hands, nobody spitting or coughing on each other, you know.
Right. Like we normally do.
We normally do. Yeah. I mean,
spitting and coughing on each other. Yeah. Are you on part of any kind of producers council or anything that would help guide the governance of what's going to be happening on set? Are you involved in any of that stuff? Like moving
we have a thing called the APA, which is the Advertising Producers Association, which look after music video kindly as well. And they've been really great. They've been lobbying the government for, you know, some sort of idea of how things work moving forward, you know, what the rules will be and when we can start work again. Mm-hmm. I think there's some sort of premise that you can sort of shoot under some certain guidelines, but I'm not quite sure anybody is. Someone asked me to, I won't name names, but someone asked me to this was like 3 weeks ago. Someone said, "Oh, can you make could you go and make a guerrilla music video for $5,000, by the way?" Which obviously the answer is fuck off. Right. But the you know, not what can you make on $5,000? But and I said, well, you know, no, not really. But you know, they just were really relentless about it, and they were like, yeah, but you could do this, and we can shoot this, and we can do that. And I was like, look, you know, we're going to be the only guys out there filming, like, you know. And they wanted to do us on an estate where everybody's in lockdown, as in not a posh estate, like a council estate, like a sort of, you know, like a sort of project type vibe, right? And this guy that was the artist was not from the estate, from the place. So it was like, right, so we're going to be a film crew in a place where no one knows who we are. They don't know who he is. We're just going to be like having things thrown at us, right? And then also people are going to be filming us, showing other people and effectively the whole UK film industry that we're out there filmmaking when we're not supposed to be, and passing on disease and everything else. So I politely declined.
Right. Speaking of polite, is Nice and Polite still a thing?
No, we sold it back in 2016. So we started it in 2011. I left Universal, then we went to, then I started Nice and Polite. And we took it to IPO in 2016, which was great for about 10 minutes. And I was a millionaire for about 10 minutes. And then multi-millionaire, and then literally it just all fell apart. But you know, so back to the grindstone and normal life, and basically, it's a good thing because I probably would have killed myself.
Well, don't do that. But we're probably going to get deep into music videos here in a second. But let's backtrack to your Universal days, so people can kind of know how you
Mm,
started and why you're an authority. While we're both authorities, both of us.
absolutely,
So,
Isaac. I mean,
what
yeah.
is it accurate to say that you were the international czar of music videos for a short term or a long term?
Yeah, I mean, I would modestly say that's the case. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, international, universal. Yeah, I mean,
Right.
no, we were making music videos in the UK, and we were making quite a lot of them as you know, in LA, in the US, and it was going really well. Yeah, I mean, not that it stopped going really well; it just continued. But I just didn't continue being at Universal. But yeah, it was for a little while there. We were, yeah, we were making a lot of music videos.
Yeah. What can you explain for the two or three people watching at home what a music video commissioner is and does?
Not really.
Okay.
Uh, can I explain? It depends on who you are. I think I realised when I left music video commissioning that music video commissioners live in a certain bubble, and each of them are very different. And having then dealt with them as a sort of supplier, effectively, they're not necessarily. Each has their own personality, each has their own approach. Mine was really. So I can only speak for myself. Mine was to find out what an artist needs and really listen to the music and find out what would be the best way of expressing that visually.
Mhm.
And then going out to the very talented world of music video directors and creative people to find the best person or people to do that. I always thought I was on my gravestone. It would be, the best middleman ever, and what a great legacy.
Yeah.
But that effectively is the job. You're between the label and the world of production and the world of creative loveliness, and your job is to oversee the project until it finishes, from a creative perspective and from a production budget, you know, um, perspective. So you're managing the project.
What were you doing with your life before? Were you working at Universal and you worked your way up to be the commissioner, or were you doing
Yeah,
something else?
I started life in my professional career as I worked for a guy called Tony Wilson very briefly, who used to run a thing called Factory Records, which was New Order and Happy Mondays and bands like that, which were at the time, the biggest bands in the world, in our world anyway. And he ran a music conference called In the City, and I went to work for that. I was fresh out of university, and it was just such an amazing sort of insight into the world of the music business at that time. This is like sort of early 2000s, and everybody got paid in cocaine. Red Bull had just been launched, so everybody was drinking Red Bull. I don't think I slept for 3 days, and it was insane. And that was the sort of, that was the sort of, yeah, that was the introduction to the music industry, which, by the way, it turned out to be nothing like that at all. But it was. I then got a job at a local independent label, and moved down. I was in Manchester and moved down to London, and worked in a wine shop for a while, which was great, and then got a job at Polydor Records and started as the PA to the guy, which was hilarious, by the way, because I'm a rubbish PA. But and got fired at least 5 times. But the guy who now runs it, he's now a guy called David Joseph, who now runs Universal Europe, as far as I'm aware, or UK. And he must have seen something in me and put me into or just hated me and put me into the video department, and with my longtime friend and mentor Cynthia Lowell, who she did videos for like Portishead and the Rolling Stones and wow, I mean David Bowie, and like she was like the woman who did that. So I worked with her, and then and then started to make some music videos. As well, commission some music videos. Sorry, I used the word make loosely.
Is it fair to
I
say
didn't
that
make.
when, just a broad stroke, definition of being a commissioner among the thousands of other things that you're responsible for, like the budget and whatnot. But is just a Cliff Notes version. You're directing the directors, right? You're keeping an eye on them.
Well, yeah, I suppose. I mean, it depends on the director. You know, some people need more sort of guidance than others. I think by the time that I finished my role at Universal, I think we were writing a lot of the briefs because we were quite specific about what we wanted. You know, quite prescriptive about the creative and everything else. But I think that, you know, it depends, because we met some directors like Sam Faramand and, you know, Chris Cunningham, like people who were like, you know, you don't direct those guys. They right. You just ask them very kindly if they'll do something for you, and they decide whether they want to or not, right? So, and you know, so sometimes, you know, but sometimes people, you know, they need to know what you need, and yeah, it depends, you know. It's really that role between getting the creative right, getting actually what you've been promised. I think a lot of the time, you know,
yeah,
finding out what it is, because a lot of it is adjectives that don't really mean anything, and a lot of it is it's going to be great, you know. Yeah. It doesn't really, you know, you're like, well, I'm sure it is, but what is it? Yeah. But the you know, and that comes with it's like I suppose it's like a creative producer. You're sitting in between the sort of creative and the logistics to be able to make sure that what you're getting from a client perspective is what you've paid for, but also that it's the best it can be, you know. And pushing where you need to push, and understanding where you need to be quiet, you know, because I think that, as we both know, every single production is just a myriad of variables, right?
Yeah.
And you know, if you go in sort of demanding that because it's rained you want sunshine, then you're just an idiot shouting in a forest where no one can hear you.
Right. Wow, that wine's really paying off. We're getting metaphorical.
Well, you know,
you're a poet when you
absolutely
drink. Do you ever write this down when you're drinking? Do you ever just write down your metaphors?
I mean, I do, but it's all scrawly, and I can't read it in the next day, you know.
Right, I do that with my joke book too. I'm a genius. I'm like, oh, this is gonna make everybody laugh. I'm just gonna write this down real quick, and then I look at it the next day.
Two words like sheep and refrigerator.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, and then I try to take that on stage and be like, sheep, refrigerator, and then nothing happens. Pause. But I've found that it's a lot of fun to sit in that awkward silence where some people would start to curl inside themselves. I love it when there's like this, when I'm bombing.
Do you? God, yeah. I mean, that's the strength, isn't it, of stand-up? That's the holy grail, is that you create that pause and then you wait it out, and then people just get so awkward they start laughing anyway, right?
Exactly. And I have 13 years of doing that in front of, you know, musical artists and movie celebrities and TV show people. And, you know, trying to get a joke or a laugh out of The Rock is a completely different thing than trying to get a laugh out of an audience that doesn't know who you are.
Yeah.
But I figured out that if I'm not having fun, it doesn't matter if the jokes are funny. So whether or not I'm funny to the crowd, if I got up there and had a good time and I made myself laugh, at least on the inside, then that's all that matters. That's what I'm shooting for.
Well, absolutely. I was thinking about you earlier, because we were doing this, but also because I think about you a lot. But also, you know, the idea of a first AD and what you did and do, and I was thinking about, you know, from coming from the UK, and that I would come to LA, and it would be as exciting as it would also be really stressful, and because there's so many unknowns. And I think that the reason that I, you know, would constantly ask if you could be on set as a first AD would be because if I knew you were there, then it would take away a lot of the variables. At least we could have an honest conversation about the fact that, is this going to go fucking south, or is it going to go left or right? And you know, and not that you would ever, you know, it wasn't that you were my man on the inside, because you would tell me quite emphatically to fuck off. Yeah. But you know, it was always that you know, it was it was important that, you know, you just got that person who's like telling the truth.
Right. Because there's such an element on set, especially in music videos, where even if the ship has completely sunk and all of the wheels have fallen off, and any other metaphor you want to use, everybody's still like, this is really great, you guys. We're definitely doing it. And you're like, well, some of us are doing it and some of us are learning. So That's
and actually, yeah, you asked that question of what a commissioner does, right? And there's lots of different elements to it, whether you're a good one or a bad one. But realistically, every single shoot, and I'm sure you'd agree, that people do, at the end of the day, everybody hugs each other. Which there's a director called Daniel Wolf, right? Who at the end of he's a Mancunian, quite a hardcore guy. He's fantastically successful now. But I remember him at the end of a shoot going, "Why the fuck is everybody hugging each other? Like, they don't do that in a fucking bank." Do you know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, not everybody goes around fucking hugging each other, telling each other they're amazing.
Exactly.
And there's sort of, and this idea of, the end of the day, yeah, it might have been a great day and everybody feels like they've got it. But I'll tell you what, that changes as soon as you get to the edit. And they're all sat in the edit going, well, why haven't we got the close up? Why haven't we got the bit, and that's then on me. Mm-hmm. And it's not on anybody who's been there on the day who can go on to the next job. It's on the people who just didn't ask the right questions, and they might on the day have been a really awkward question to ask.
Yep.
But it's it's confrontation isn't very nice. But at the same time, if you don't get what you need to get on that day, and you've spent all of the money on that day, either you have to pay a load of more money to go and get it again, which is inevitably a nightmare, or the video just gets binned. And that is always to this day is always shocking to me when things like music videos, which might cost £10,000 or £100,000 or £2,000, mm-hmm. however much they cost, that amount of money is a lot of money.
Right.
You know what I mean? And how could you just put it in the bin?
Yeah, that was one of my biggest challenges. When either a first-time director or like a visionary director that's been doing it for 20 years, if we'd be on the wide of a performance and we've on our 30th take, but we haven't gone in and gotten any coverage. Oh, we're mixing beers and wines. That's awesome.
Well, I've finished the wine, and now I thought beer might be more sensible, because if I continue on the wine, it's going to end in tears.
Oh, keep going with the wine.
I'll get back on the wine.
There you go. My biggest problem would always be trying to convince this director, whether they're a first-time director or, somebody that's been doing it forever. Like, at the end of the day, 28 takes of the wide isn't going to make you a cut. Like, we have to start getting in there and getting our coverage. You have it. It's somewhere between those 28 takes, you've got your wide. And you're going to hang on it for the intro, and you're might cut to it on the outro for just a second. Plus, you're going to pop in all your narrative. We got to move on. And it's
and an interesting thing about wides, I think, is that you're only ever going to see in a music video, you're only going to ever see like 4 wides. Mm-hmm. So just shoot 4 wides.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? And also in a wide, you can do what the fuck you want. It doesn't have to be, like you can sort of get it generally. So and I think that there's sort of, especially a sort of, an inexperienced or particularly arrogant director will be pushing to be like, no, it's not perfect. It's not perfect. Like, well, there's a timeline, right? Yeah. There's an amount of time we can get stuff done, and if you haven't got it right, that's on you. But we need to move on, And that, I suppose, that's when a commissioner, and the reason why I suppose we're friends as well, and have become friends, is because a commissioner, I suppose, would understand the need to get on with it. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not just, we're not going to be here for like 3 days, unless you're a specific director called Wiz, who works here in the UK, who's a brilliant director, and I shot, I think, for 48 hours straight with him. Mm-hmm. And I have no idea how he got away with that. I don't know, he must have something on the producer or something, but I aside from him, there was a certain amount of time, and actually, on that point as well, which I can bang on about for ages, but I went to a festival of people who make music videos and stuff, and normally they're what they are. But what was really interesting was hearing from an editor saying, why don't, what we would love is if the director came and talked to us before they shot. Yeah. Because then we can go through the shot list, we can go through what we've planned, and we can tell you what we need. And then, and we can tell you what to prioritize, because that's what we need, right? To make that 3.5 minute, whatever it is, narrative or structure work. And I thought that was like, for me, that was like game changing. Yeah. That was like, why doesn't everybody do that? Right. So when we're at, when I'm in production now, it's always, I always try and say that to our directors, can you just have a quick chat with the editors, go through it? And they're always like, well, why would we do that? But you're like, well, because you don't have to take the advice they give you, but I would recommend you at least listen to what they have to say, right?
Exactly. And I've always said some of my favorite directors that I get along with the best, I've been saying this for years, editors make the best directors.
Yeah.
Because they don't overshoot. It's like, I got that, and I only need a little bit of this. And then when you're into the narrative, they're like, well, I don't need him to walk all the way from the kitchen. He just needs to go around the corner, and then
Yeah, exactly.
they shoot
And
it in.
bassists, and by the way, bassists make the best editors, in my opinion, because
Well,
they know the beat.
I happen to be a bass player, and I happen to also be
Well,
an editor. The only thing I wasn't successful at in my film career was directing. Except it's funny that you bring up $5,000 music videos, because my last music video had a $5,000 budget, and it's currently over 300 something million views.
well, for fuck's sake! And this is the problem.
Uh,
Well, congratulations, but also, yeah. I mean, I suppose, you know, because I've run a company since. I think that I was thinking about this as well earlier about, you know, yeah, of course, and people can make music videos on much less now, because the technology is such that you can, you know, you don't need all that you used to need, and
Right.
that I don't want to sound like just some moany old guy saying, like, you know, you can't do stuff. Great ideas are great ideas, and if you can realize them, then fantastic. It doesn't really matter how much they cost. But I think the business of music video, you know, that then changes the business, because the business, you know, unless it's made, you know, how many videos would it have to make? How many $5 grand videos would it have to make a day to get through the idea that you'd have to employ people, develop talent, etc., etc. So,
Right.
so actually, the way that the whole business changes, adapts, you know, it's not that it won't adapt, it's not that it won't change, it's not that it isn't, and it's not that it hasn't, you know. But I think that it's about sustainability, and I think it's about record labels and artists understanding their supply chain, because it's such an important part of the visual of an artist is hugely important. And if you make a bad video for an artist, they have to live with that forever.
Yeah.
And the, you know, so it really is about sort of this idea of, yeah, we can make things cheaper, but it's really about, you know, if you try to switch that into the investment into the artist, and that sort of mindset of, what are we investing in the artist properly? You know, that's a sort of, it's a really interesting sort of dynamic, I think, in terms of how things have changed and how things, you know, need to sort of, how we need to understand things, you know.
Do you find that the way that the labels are selecting their artists has changed? Like, it used to be like development. We can see the talent. We're going to work with them. We're going to help them grow. And now it just seems like, oh, this kid's got 4 million followers on Instagram. Let's scoop them up. Or this kid won American Idol. Or, like, do you feel like the way that labels are selecting their talent is different now?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. You know, I haven't got an insight into the US market as much, but I know that the UK market usually does things probably just before the US market does, in a certain way. I think the internet's changed that, but I think I mean, there's real positives around, you know, signing an artist that's got X million hits on YouTube or Spotify or whatever, because you're going with a winner. I mean, that's just good betting, right? You know, you're more likely to win. You're on this, you know, you're gonna win a gamble if you bet on a horse that's won 10 races as opposed to one that's not won any. But as in, you know, in terms of, that makes total sense. And if you know, but I think the magic of music and the sort of the artistic bit of A&R, I suppose, is finding that person who just didn't have the chance to get there because they didn't know how to get there. So they didn't know how to get 4 million hits. I think those people are sort of, they're less unicorn than they used to be, those sort of Justin Bieber characters. But there is another side of it, which is that there might be an artist who is an okay rapper, but could be great. You know, the Verve, I think, God, I'm showing my age, but the Verve, for example, didn't really hit until their 4th album, you know, or, you know, these artists that they do need a little bit of sort of time in the ring to be able to get good. Right. Do you know what I mean? And that totally. And that sort of mentality, I think, that maybe is getting lost. You know, right. that you know, and always was, actually, even, you know, 10 years ago or whatever. But you know, is give them time and they'll blossom. Mm-hmm. But obviously it's going to cost you a bit of money before they do blossom. But when they do blossom, they're going to blossom so hard that then you're going to make even more money than you would have ever thought you were going to make off that first album. I've seen a lot of artists go by the wayside who, you know, just didn't have just enough time in the game, really.
Right. And I think there's a lot of parallels to that in the comedy world also. Like,
Yeah.
You can tell if somebody, is inherently funny in a chat, but that doesn't mean that that's going to translate to the stage. And then it's going to take years of reps on the stage to
Yeah.
see if they can work that material out. And just
Yeah.
being situationally funny doesn't necessarily cut it. So some of these people that are great singer performers on YouTube in their bedroom get in front of an audience and they completely freeze up. They don't necessarily have the stage presence. So
Yeah.
there's just a lot of factors going into it, and I think it's an interesting time for music and the way we promote music. Is it's less about the big machine now and more about like what can you pull off from your apartment or your house.
Yeah, I think it's the age of the independent artist. I think that and almost the age of probably the independent comedian in a sense as well. I think that you're right. I think there's historic sort of route to market which you have to learn your game, but also that I think that now you've got to ask what a label offers, and what does a label offer? Well, you've got distribution because you can do it through TuneCore or Landa or whichever one you choose, and you can get real time, transparent stats on what you're doing and which countries you're working in and what date. If you do a little bit of marketing on Facebook, then you can work out whether that works or not, or whether it works better on Instagram or you focus it on whatever. So I think that the independent artists now, all of that stuff that the record label used to hide behind this sort of shroud of this is what we do is gone, because no one's buying physical products anymore. So I think that is not need that distribution network has completely collapsed. So I think realistically, labels probably have to ask themselves what we're offering, and the independent artist actually can rise up and say, well, there's a great example actually, a guy called Bugsy Malone, a rapper in Manchester, who killing it, done it all himself as far as I can tell, and it's just a great story. Do you know what I mean? And there's so many others, and I just think that it's taken away that idea that labels have this power, and I love that.
Yeah, I love it too. It's awesome.
It's great, man.
So after leaving Universal, do you want to talk about Nice and Polite? Do you want to skip over to what you're doing now?
Well, Nice and Polite's done. So yeah, I mean, what I'm doing now, I suppose what I realized with Nice and Polite is that very quickly I went to Berlin with some of my friends who were directors called Alex and Leanne, and we went and got really stoned, and we got this chalkboard and we wrote what would a new production company look like, and we wrote loads of things down, and a bit like the conversation we had earlier, we just didn't remember anything when we woke up in the morning, but all of it was brilliant.
Yeah.
And actually then, we decided not to work together for whatever reason, but I went and launched Nice and Polite. It became a very typical production company, roster of directors, great directors. And we made some cool shit, but we won an MTV Music Award. We won Cannes Lion. We won one show in New York. We were killing it, right? But the model didn't really work. Like there's this sort of idea that a bit like artists, like directors, it was really the worst bit. I realized actually, I sort of had to ask myself, what's the bit that is the bit I don't enjoy? And it was talking to directors, because but as in managing them, because realistically that relationship, not because of them, but because the relationship didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
They were asking, what are you doing for me today? Where's the work?
Right.
And if there was too much work, why have I got too much? It's sort of this weird sort of power balance of you're the man, right? Which I didn't, it was like, well, we're all on the same team. So right. I'm not the man. We're just trying to fight for the same, we're trying to fight the same battle. But, right. And actually we had quite a quick turnover of directors, because either they weren't, people didn't really want to work with them, or because they were too niche, or they were too whatever, or that, we would develop them and then they would make something cool and then they would get signed up by the bigger production companies, the Partisans, and that was frustrating, right? Because you put a lot of effort in and they're like, wooed by a bigger label, and you're like, right, cool. So I just got to the point where I was like, actually, this isn't working for me anymore. This is like annoying me.
Yeah.
So So I thought, right, once we'd sort of gone through the process of Nice and Polite, there was a bit afterwards where I went on holiday for like basically a year, and then had a bit of a nervous breakdown, whatever, etc. And then
there's got to be good stories in that
midlife crisis.
Yeah,
no, it was good. Yeah,
that year has to have some nuggets in it.
Being in the Grand Prix in Singapore, and it was fun. Right. But the point was that I just came back and thought, right, who am I? And actually, what the thing about, and just to go back to the Universal thing, when I left Universal, I had a huge, when you work for a company like that, you work for any sort of, I suppose, corporation. I see it with people now. They've got this sort of armor of, I'm the guy from Universal, I'm that guy. Mm-hmm. And they've got this sort of, swagger. When that's taken away, when you're not, the whatever your title is, you're just you. And then you have to ask yourself, who are you?
Right.
Are you just a guy who likes the sound of his own voice with a mild alcohol and drug problem? Like, in my case, putting at you, or are we all just that?
That's why we get along.
It's just, you just sort of think, well, who am I? And it really hit me quite hard, and then it happened again after Nice and Polite, sort of, you'd sold it, got a bit of money out of it, and then you get to the sort of top of the mountain and you go, well, what was it that I wanted? What is it that you need to do? So it really sort of crafted the idea of what's next. What's next is I want to make creative work. I want to do it on my terms. I don't want a load of overhead. I don't really want to be looking after a load of people that are looking to me to make their lives different, because I just don't know how to do that, right?
Yeah.
I don't feel that, and I've got children. That's my job with them. It's not. I haven't got. I don't want. It's not like fucking Noah's Ark. I don't want like
right.
loads of
you
kids.
Need 12 other kids.
Well, yeah, exactly, right. So I it made a really clear decision. Sorry, I'm boring you. It made a really clear decision as to let's not have a roster. Now at the time that felt a little bit like, ooh, that's a bit weird. A production company without a roster,
right?
But actually, in effect, what it's done is sort of mean that every project that we come across, we can put together a bespoke team that's right for the project. Mm-hmm. So, you can pick the right illustrator and animator, director, and basically put that team together. And when you have that conversation, do you want to work? Do you want to do a project that's this? Their conversation is yes or no. And it's really simple. You get the project done. Yeah, there's probably some variables in between, and then you say goodbye until the next one.
Well, you hug at the end. You got to hug at the end, and then
you got to hug at the end, obviously. Like any normal production,
like at the bank,
virtually, as we are doing now. But then, so yeah, I mean, I think it feels a lot healthier, and it also feels that the directors that we're working with and the talent that we're working with, they can go and work with whoever they want. They can do whatever they want. They can, it's not up to me. They're not looking at me going, well, you signed this contract with your boss. I feel a little bit bound by it. Yeah. You're like, well, just go and do whatever you want. I can give a shit.
Yeah.
So, and that's great, and that feels very modern.
It's just project by project, and you just bang it out and then on to the next one, which
absolutely
makes a lot of sense, as opposed to having 12, 15, 20 mouths to feed all the time, keeping them working.
Yeah. And the reality of that is that you've always got, you've got your guys who are sort of doing the work and they've got a reputation and they're doing the right stuff. But then you've got your other guys who are maybe in development or just haven't worked for a while and they're pissed off. And, it just feels wrong.
Yeah.
You're hearing my emails coming in. Sorry.
No, I'm not hearing them at all.
Good, great.
Are you, you hearing anything on my end?
No, just the soulful, deep voice.
Well, this is my podcast voice.
I know, right? Sexy time.
Do you have any? Not to take a hard right turn, but do you have any plans on being in the U.S.? That's a stupid question. Are you? You can't leave your fucking house.
I'm gonna commission a private jet. We're gonna get ourselves out of. We're gonna fly really low under the radar,
right?
And try and not, just not infringe any, airspace rules, and just come and see you basically.
In the private jet, just to come on and hang out and
just hang out for a bit. But you
would love it here now. The beaches are closed. but my business partner lives on the sand. I'll take him some mail, do whatever, get to hang out. We'll have a coffee, socially distant, but he's got the beach to himself. It's fucking amazing. But I can,
That is
normally
amazing.
take 2-3 hours to get there normally with traffic. It takes 23 minutes now.
Well, I imagine it's what LA would be like if I moved to LA, and then when you get to LA, you realize that, normally before this, that you would be sitting in traffic for 6 hours and go, oh, actually, no, this isn't what I imagined. I imagined it'd be like a cross between like Baywatch and, Knight Rider.
Right. That's exactly what I pictured. And then you get here and it's more like, I don't know, New York in the 80s. I don't even know how to describe it. Like LA was not what I thought I was signing up for, but I signed up for it with my 3 best friends. We all moved here together. So it was like, well, I'm not giving up. Are you giving up? No. So we kind of all just kind of pushed each other, and only 1 or 2 of us gave up. But the rest of us.
Are you glad you're not in New York? I mean, that sounds pretty horrific.
New York was never for me. I went there with my senior high school class for New Year's Eve, and just one trip around the city, and I was like, I hate it here. So I like to visit. I like to do 1 or 2 jobs there a year, but only in the summer. You're not going to catch me there in the winter ever again. Probably never going to catch me in New York City after this thing.
Yeah, right.
No, not for shit. There's no way I'm ever going there. I was born in upstate New York. So.
Oh, were you?
Yeah.
I thought you were born in like Colorado or something.
I wish. Maybe my kids will be born in Colorado should I ever have them. But
where were you? Where did you grow up though?
I grew up in North Carolina, which is halfway down the East Coast.
Carolina, Colorado.
Yeah, same thing. Just
same fucking thing, right?
Yeah.
Wales, Spain.
Right. I couldn't tell you anything on a map in the UK, and you're probably the same. You know where New York and LA are, and probably Miami. But that,
Tell me about your visit to London and how you felt, how you interacted with the local people and enjoyed it.
Well, I didn't see any of it. So
no, this is the problem, isn't it? So the fact is, you came all the way to London and you slept, as far as I can tell, and you spent most of the day in one hotel room, and then you went back to the airport. I think you went for one meal, right?
We went out to the same restaurant. We were there for 5 nights. We went out to the same restaurant 3 nights.
Unfucking believable.
Apparently we weren't staying in a great side of town. We were near not Heathrow, but the other airport.
That's a great excuse, Isaac. But you just didn't deal with jet lag very well. It's the long and short of it.
We shot in the hotel we stayed in, and then we went to the conference center next door, and then we came back, and there was a Thai restaurant down the street. I was in bed by 8 or 9 o'clock every night. I was wiped out.
Yeah. Well, saying that, actually, I don't look. I'm taking the piss out of you, but realistically, when I came to LA, I would get the taxi to Sunset, phone you, go to a bar like 4 doors down, get fucked up, shoot, then phone you again, probably get more fucked up, and then come home. So yeah, I mean, realistically, it's exactly the same thing.
Yeah, except you went out and saw stuff, and we went to bars.
Well, true, but only usually as part of the shoot, and then I mean, we went to a couple of restaurants, but
Now, do you find it's easier for you coming here? Are you like amped up, and then going home you hit the jet lag, or are you tired when you get here and then you're rejuvenated when you get back? Because I was tired.
Jet lag kicks the fuck out of you, doesn't it? I remember actually one time, I think we'd been out as well. It was one of those nights, and got there. I mean, the problem is when you get there that it's, I don't know, whatever time late at night. So I'll get there at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and then I'll want to drink because my body's saying you need a drink. So I'll have like a whiskey sour or something because I think I'm being, very very cool. And then then you'll have to do like some sort of styling meeting or whatever, or just try and avoid it. And then shoot the next day. But it's that night or the next day where like it comes to like 8 o'clock at night, and you just realize that you're slurring your words. You can't really keep your eyes open. People are like looking at you as if to say, are you having a stroke?
Right.
Like, as in, you're like, and then you're like, I need to go to bed. But then you wake up at 4 a.m. and you're wide awake, and then and then it will happen again the next day. So it's really, but I remember once that the time I'm thinking of that, I think it was my 30th birthday, 30 something, and I got home and we'd arranged a surprise party. So I got back off the plane, got in, and as you know, I'm sure for when you got in, you just want to go to fucking bed, right?
Yeah.
Or just get into your pajamas and whatever. And got back, and there was like all of my family, all of my friends. Ta-da! And it was like, no, sorry. It's very nice to see you, but fuck off.
Right.
Yeah. So no, it's not easy.
Yeah, I just when I came home from doing nothing in London, I think I shot maybe 400 snaps the whole time I was there for 5 days.
Okay. Is that a lot?
No.
No.
The old me, when I first started photography, the old me would have taken like 10,000 and been like,
Okay.
hope one of these is good. But now it's like, snap, got it. Let's go. Get out of here. It's good.
Do you find that? I find when you go to somewhere that's like a major city, and I got this with definitely with New York, is that you don't want to go and see like the Statue of Liberty because you've seen it like a million times. So you going and seeing it in person is just a shit version of what you've seen on a movie. So why would you want to go and see it, right? I mean, I know this might be this might sound like the worst thing that anybody's ever said ever, but I just think I just don't get that. I just don't understand why it's the experience that I quite enjoy, like the bar that nobody's been to, or they're like, the sort of the weird sort of conversation with someone, or the argument with a taxi driver, usually in New York. But like it's not like it's sort of going and seeing the sights and taking pictures. I just don't get it.
For me, it's about like where we're gonna film, like getting to shut down something I've seen on a movie before. That's pretty fun. But just like I went to the Empire State Building last time I was in New York. And it caught on fire while I was there, and they gave us our money back. They gave us our $45 back, and I was like, I'm super glad you gave me my money back, because that's just like being at the top of a tall building. I've been at the top of a tall building before.
And that's another thing, is going higher in a city. I don't understand why that's good. I don't understand why going up and seeing more above a city is a thing that people want to do. I don't understand. It's like, well,
you guys have
I get it.
That ski gondola that goes over the O2 and the river.
Pointless, fucking pointless.
I will,
and probably quite dangerous.
All I thought about was the plummet to the water, the impact that will probably break your back when you hit the water, and then freezing to death before you drowned as your capsule sinks.
What a way to go!
Yeah. So I time lapsed it. Been doing that thing where I've started to put like funny cuts into my show now that there's video. So I tell myself when I snap, like a video comes up, and then when I snap, it's
I was thinking that today. I was thinking, what's your like? Do you have like an intro tune like Frasier or something? Do you have like a sort of
Yeah, I have one. It's like a 90s themed sitcom, and I was gonna shoot me like messing with the printer, and then when I see the camera, then I'm like, huh, and then I like smile off to the camera, and then I like fall and do that like 50 times. But I think that'll get old, so I think I'm gonna shoot.
What about? Well, do you not have to have like a sort of bikini-clad lady sit down and be like, oh, they really love doing it, and you like smoking a cigarette off the side and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think for the intro, it's more about like thinking I'm looking cool or thinking I'm doing something awesome until I know that I'm on camera, and then it gets goofy.
Right,
so originally I was going to shoot that once and then play it in front of every episode, but then I realized that gets boring. My intro song's a minute and a half.
No, man, no, that's not true. People fucking love an intro sequence. It makes them feel relaxed. It makes them feel warm. It makes them feel like they can get their like cup of tea or beer or glass of white wine, or both beer and glass of white wine, and sit down and just get ready for the onslaught of fantastic shit that's about to happen.
Which in video I 100% agree, but for the audio only listeners,
I see. Yeah, no,
it's a minute and a half of basically Full House. And most, which I don't know if you had Full House in the UK.
I'm aware of it. We don't, but
they rebooted it as Fuller House. They even brought it back. So I'll send you the song. It's full on a minute and a half, which should only be 30 seconds of like the cheesiest 90s sitcom, just mega blend. So that's why I picked it.
That sounds good. Well, here's a question, and this might not be podcast friendly, but what is you're living in the capital of filmmaking in the world, which now can't make any film. Is there not rioting?
No,
I don't, as in, is there any
people want?
Is everybody just really happy to have a day off?
people are super good about doing the socially distant thing here. They just want the parks and beaches back. Like, if we can't go to work, let us out of the house. Like, we'll stay away from each other. But so many people were going to the parks and beaches that everybody else was like, well, why am I stuck in my apartment? I'm going to go out too. And then it just turned into a holiday for everybody.
Yeah, it's the same here. They had to get police to at the roads because all the English people were coming here to their second homes and getting, there was going to be a problem.
Yeah, because you guys have a bunch of racism over there, don't you?
No, not really. Only between no, as we don't have the same racism that you have, which is people of different colours. It's that we have, although we obviously do, sadly, but what we have is a sort of tribal sense of, and actually, what's hilarious is that it's tribal even within the spaces of a mile. So you sort of, well, you haven't got the right, you're not from that right part of Liverpool, or you're not from that right part of Leeds or London. So and actually to the point where there's gangs who are, I don't know if you have this in LA, but they're postcode gangs. So if you go from NP7 to NP1 or whatever, well, NP is Wales, but like M1 to like N3, then you'll get shot.
Yeah,
I know you won't get. Sorry, you won't get shot. If you get shot, at worst case scenario, you'll probably just get stabbed and die. Right. So it's pretty full on. Yeah, it's like there's well, and that is the sort of thing that we do not like seeing in the UK.
You don't like knives?
Why would you carry that? What do you need that for?
I need to open boxes and cut layout board a lot.
God, I mean, are you carrying an automatic weapon as well?
No, I gave up all my guns when I moved here, which I probably shouldn't tell people, but I'm in the process of acquiring more firearms as we speak, in case this whole thing gets weird. I'm also beefing up.
Yeah, that's so weird because I got a little bit like that, right? So I think we've watched Contagion, which didn't help.
Why?
And then, well, because it was number one on Netflix and we couldn't think what else to watch. And so I started building gates. Have you seen my gate building scenario?
No.
I built 2 gates. I'm on my third. So I've started fortifying our things so people can't get in, as if we're going to get attacked by zombies or something.
Wait, by gates, do you mean like you're putting them on the house, or are you building a fence with a gate in it?
I'm building gates between. The house is made of stone and wood, so I'm building gates in between the stone, so people can't get through.
Oh, so there formerly was a gate there.
To be fair, they have a very easy sort of like just quite quaint little sort of thing that goes over. I mean, it's not hard, but it just gives us a little bit of warning,
right?
Just a little bit of like, yep, someone's come in the gate, I mean, it's partly to keep my 1.5-year-old from jumping off various things, but it's also a part of me was thinking, yeah, it might kick off. I might have to fortify this house. I might have to, if there's looting. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go on the underweb or whatever the fuck they call it, and get myself a stun gun. I tried. Right, so anyway, in terms of my trips to LA, I once tried because I was so bored. We did a James Morrison video in Toronto. Getting from Toronto through New York was a nightmare. I don't want to diss the customs people, but they were fucking rude. Anyway, then went to LA, and I'd been and there had been various narcotics involved. So I got to LA, and I was feeling a bit rubbish. And I said to my friends, I had a couple of days off, which was very unique for me. And I said, what do I do? What can I do in LA? Right. So he said, well, I'll take you to a gun club. I was like, okay. So I went to the gun club. I've told you this story. And the guy in the gun club. So this guy like fires guns regularly. Was like well into it. I went to a gun club and basically just opened my mouth for like 2 seconds. And he just handed me. I had to sign this thing saying that I hadn't smoked weed, but I could have been drunk and high on crack or whatever. But I just hadn't smoked weed, thank God.
Yep.
And so they gave me the gun that was this big. Right, they gave me basically an Englishman's gun,
pew, pew.
a tiny little gun, right? And I was like, "Thank you," not really what I had in mind. Anyway, went into the the place, what I don't know what you call it, the range.
Yeah.
And then went in. Oh fuck me, right? You know when I hear like a hi hat, like it makes me blink.
Mm-hmm.
Like I mean, this was like that times a million. And the noise. This guy had like an elephant gun. One guy had like an elephant gun. The other guy had like a double shotgun thing, like of Terminator.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, and it was just horrific. I was like, my body was shaking. I was like a mess. And then, so I got to the thing. I had these headphones on, which did nothing. And it was traumatic enough, right? So then I'd got this gun out, and he's like, right, so, you know, load the gun, take a shot. And I was like, right, I loaded it. Luckily, I turned to him with the gun in hand, which he nearly slapped me around. It's just literally actually slapped me around the face and said, please never do that. And then I said, oh, I'll put these in right. He said, well, you put them in backwards.
Oh, wow.
Which means you'll effectively have killed yourself. Which for me was like, why are we here? And what am I doing holding a gun? Right?
Well, it's impossible to set them off if you put them in backwards. Because the firing pin hits the head and not the igniter. It's massive.
Well, my problem was, why am I finding? Because on the films, you just go like that, bang, bang, boom, right? I was like try not to sweat and like scream a little bit. Anyway, he was like, I don't think you should be holding that. Anyway, he finally got it sorted. I took a shot and I shot the roof. And he took 3 shots just to hit the target to make me feel better.
Oh, he was.
I just couldn't hit the target. I was like, I don't know what's going on. It was the most stressful 40 minutes of my life. And then I came back through LA Customs to go to South America. I was going to Sao Paulo. It's covered in gun, whatever that is. What's that?
Gunpowder. Yeah.
Residual residue. All the things that I had all over me anyway. So it was like, you know, it was horrendous.
So they're swabbing you and the whole thing's going off instead of
yeah, exactly. Like they're swabbing me, and it was like, wow, he's scoring all the points.
Instead of detecting anything specific, it just says yes.
It just says, what is going on? Arrest him.
All of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anal cavity search for sure.
Absolutely. I mean that obviously that's something you enjoy.
But in lieu of getting a gun, do you guys have a dog?
We've got a Chihuahua called Kiki,
yeah.
Who I wouldn't classify. I don't know. She's on the borderline of being a dog.
That's a cat that barks.
She comes and shits in my office actually, just to tell me that she hates me every now and again. And yeah, she's. I mean, yeah, she's. It's to answer your question. Officially, yes.
Technically, yes.
Technically, yes.
Any thoughts on getting a big dog to protect the house and the kids?
I hate dogs. I absolutely hate. And I know this is, you know, people are like, oh, what sort of man are you? What sort of human being? Have you got a heart? Have you got a soul? Yeah, I have, and I really like them if someone else has got them. But if I've got them, I don't find picking up another animal's shit something I really want to do.
Right. It's not for me either until I
it actually makes me throw up. Like I as soon as I go like I can't do it, so it makes me like involuntary gag. So I can't do it unless I have to then clean up dog shit and puke.
It's a twofer or nothing. So no dogs.
So there you go, Isaac. I hope this is helpful.
This is riveting television right here. This is going to get picked up by NBC in no time.
Absolutely.
So no guns, no dogs, except the Chihuahua, but a couple of gates. So if it cracks off, you guys are pretty
locking it down. We're locking it down in the most polite way possible.
So there's
most English sort of
guns are outlawed, right? But you can have a musket in the country or something.
Not really. No, you can't do any of that shit because I don't know if you're aware, but people tend to get killed.
You know, March.
What are your views on gun ownership, Isaac?
You know what? This is the United States, so if you want one, go get one. If you don't want one, don't have one.
I know. I'm fully aware of what the United States views are. What are your views, Isaac?
I'm trying to keep it Switzerland over here, so I don't alienate any viewers. But at some point, I'm going to have to develop a point of view and just say, "Fuck it, I'm going to go with these people," and hopefully they listen to the show. I think. But honestly,
like the president.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you hear what he said last week?
Sorry, I'm backing into a corner. I mean, it just gets more bizarre and it gets better. Obviously from our perspective, it's mad. I mean, we've got our own issues, right, with Brexit and everything else. But nothing really computes to nothing on the scale of him saying that, and then seeing on the news that the upscale of people being admitted to ICU units because they'd drunk various disinfectants.
Yeah.
And him going, I don't know why that would be.
Right. I was being sarcastic.
Why would that be? Like, I think because he said it on fucking national television, idiot. And believed it, I think is the most important thing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But
what else did he say?
It seems like you guys have a Trump of your own.
It's hard to keep up.
With Boris is kind of a Trump of your own, though, right? He says some silly things from time to time, does he not?
He's a clown of sorts, but yeah, I mean, I think it'd be nice when both countries, I think, get back to politicians just being quite boring and getting on with their job.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, as in, just do it properly. Like any other situation. I don't really want Krusty the Clown running my bank, so I would move bank, whereas you can't move country that easily, so it's tricky. But I think it'd be great just not to have. I'd rather have Lisa running it than Krusty, basically.
Nice reference. And we haven't lined up anybody that it's going to inspire any hope either. Biden called his wife his sister the other day, so great. There's a running.
Oh God! I thought I was a big Corbyn fan, which means that that translates as a Bernie Sanders fan. I thought that guy was great, and what happened here was that ironically, that you had all of these Corbyn the last election we had. Corbyn had all of these policies that he was going to implement, and everybody was like, "Oh, it's ridiculous! It's fucking ridiculous! There's not enough money. What a twat!" And then the COVID-19 happened, and all of those policies, all of that money came out of nowhere. All of those policies got implemented effectively, and it was like blank check. Just let's go for it. And nobody here, which is just ironic, turns around and goes, "Yeah, but that guy was sort of saying that like 6 months ago, right?"
Right.
And we were all calling him a dickhead. So I find, same with Bernie Sanders, really, this idea of that they're pariahs because they're socialists. I just think, well, aren't we all socialists in a way? Because otherwise the world ends in tears of burning fire and everybody sort of like dying.
Well, the problem is that I already currently live in a socialistic state because we share tax money to build roads and schools, right? So that's a socialistic policy. But in our education system, they teach us about socialism right after they teach us about Nazis. So inherently, they're like, "Oh, I'm going to assimilate Nazis and socialism. It must be bad
because socialism is linked with Marxism and the Russian sort of communist ideal, and that I mean, I can sort of see the lineage of that, but I mean, God, fucking hell, man, that's just mad, isn't it?
And then totally
I mean, why would they not teach you about like Norway?
And then the same people that are incredibly scared of socialism are asking where their stimulus check is from the government. And then they want to know where their unemployment is. And it's like, hey, just remember, there's two things the problem with that. One, you're asking for help from the government, which is fine. Everybody needs it. Nobody's working. I totally get it. I got a stimulus check. I'm on unemployment right now as well. Just remember, we're going to have to pay that money back. It's not like we have a surplus. In fact, everybody over here is aware that we have a national debt. And the last time I checked, I should look it up. It's 17, 19, 18, $27 trillion national debt.
Right? Yeah, but the point of that is that number is a concept. Mm-hmm. So the idea that number is just a concept. It's a number that sounds a lot because they've told you it's a lot. Here we had austerity. So since the financial crash, there's been this idea of austerity. So everything costs more. There was a reduction of services, the reduction of social care, reduction of the NHS, everything else. All of this stuff that we've felt the absolute fucking kick in the arsehole. I promise you, it's been misery for most. It's been felt. And then they open the fucking doors. As soon as COVID comes in, they open the doors and go, "Oh, yeah, about that. Yeah, fuck that." Because it's a fucking concept. So the idea that, I mean, God, we could go on about this for a long time, but it's frustrating that people are dying because of those decisions, and people are dying. What I think what this crisis has done really well is highlight that it is not I, it is we.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's a lot of interesting like counter arguments to the lockdown. I mean, I can kind of see it where everybody's coming from, because the amount of car accident deaths has been greatly reduced because no one's driving because everybody's locked down. So like, at what point? I was explaining it in the terms of like the insurance adjuster from Fight Club, right? He's got to go through and do the math on how much each life is worth, and at a certain point, we have to do that same math, and it's unfortunate. And people are that we're going to accept a number of deaths to restart the economy.
Yeah.
But I think I was listening to, that doesn't matter. But at a certain point, the worldwide starvation hunger numbers are going to go up from the economic collapse. That's going to vastly outweigh the number of deaths that we're going to get from COVID. So the number of economic processes that.
Well, sorry, just to stop you. Unless there is a readjustment like there was in 2008 about the economic collapse. So you can readjust, because it is a concept. Mm-hmm. So you can readjust like they did. So the banks nothing actually went under. They just got bailed out. So there is a readjustment that can happen, which is a conceptual readjustment, which can happen, which actually means that doesn't necessarily have to happen.
Right.
Yeah, there will. Of course, there'll be governments saying, well, we've got to spend less here because of what happened with COVID, and God, fuck me, that's going to be an absolute tidal wave of shit. Mm-hmm. Because they bailed us out while we were dying of COVID. I mean, the whole thing's fucked up, man. So the whole thing's, without getting into, I don't think I'm a conspiracy theorist. I think I'm just a fucking realist. The reality is that, it depends on who's telling the story. Mm-hmm. It depends on who you're talking to. In terms of how it's being dealt with, and what yes, big businesses will lose money. Okay, can they take it? Probably. Mm. Can people who haven't got any money take it? No.
Right.
Well, so it's a rebalance. Maybe that's that, and that again. Let's go back to socialism. That's sort of what socialism is.
Well, speaking of conspiracy theories.
Sorry, got deep then, didn't it?
No.
Got annoying.
Are you aware of the comet that's currently hurtling towards Earth right now that's breaking up?
Yeah, I am, and I said to my wife, I hope it just clips your ex-husband's house.
That's funny. It might not hit tonight. It's going to hit the 29th or 30th. Today is the 29th. I plan on driving out to the desert tomorrow night to see it from a dark place.
What, to see the end of the world?
Yeah.
Is it going to hit? Is this what's the vibe? Is it going to hit?
Well, if you're a conspiracy theorist, they've kept us all inside and pacified so that when it hits, there aren't as many people outside running around.
Oh, is that what this is? To be fair, we've had locusts, we've had floods, we've had hurricanes and shit. We've had I haven't seen the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, but I'm sure that they've ridden through. Mm-hmm. So it's only a matter of time before the big day comes. And will that mean that dinosaurs then come back to the Earth?
It depends.
That would be cool.
If we're going strictly biblical rules here, I can walk you down this path. There's quite a few number of things that have to happen before the actual apocalypse happens.
Okay. Yeah.
So
talk me through it.
We have to at some point identify there's a couple of things that have to happen. If you're going, there's two schools of rules. I'm going to go with the New Testament, the Christianity side, as opposed to like the Jewish side who doesn't believe in the New Testament. But there has to be a set of circumstances that trigger the rapture, which is where Christians all get beamed up automatically to heaven, and then after the rapture.
Okay. Sorry, Isaac. Can I just stop you for a second? Do you mind if I go and get another glass of wine before I hear this fantastic?
Go ahead.
Do you mind?
No.
I know we're on your time here, but
I got all day.
All right, wicked.
Yeah, good.
I see. I've got a box of wine, so just didn't drink.
It sounded like you stepped off camera, pissed in your cup.
It does, doesn't it? Right. So that's what it sounds like.
Down.
It's a box. It's a little bit like that, and it will. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. So,
I'm trying to get some structural backup. It's been a long time since I've sat through
the New Testament,
the whole church thing. But
it's been a while since I've sat through the New Testament, to be fair. But sorry, go on. So there's going to be a few things that happen before the Judgment Day.
6, in fact, 6 biblical signs of the end of times, right? It starts with Christ's second coming, which is the rapture. All Christians get beamed up, Scotty, right? And then this says nation against nation. I don't know what that means. And then
as far as as far as I can tell, hasn't happened.
No, I would hope to be considered. If not me, my mom.
I seriously doubt you would be on that list. I'm sorry, Isaac.
Okay. Well, my mom would definitely, and some preachers that I know would be gone by now, I think. Maybe.
Oh yeah. But you're not.
I'll get stuck behind. But I have a second chance, right? So after that, you will then have the opportunity to either take or not take the mark of the beast, which is where everybody's getting super excited now about these tracking programs where you get an app on your phone that says whether or not you have COVID or not. Because that's the start to getting chipped or getting barcoded.
So it's not getting 666 tattooed on your testicles, because I had that done and it was very painful. Is that not right?
Well, the funny thing about 666, if you really want to go super deep on this, and someone's going to have to fact check me, but that on the barcode, the first, middle, and longest bars of every single barcode is the number 6.
Well, what does that mean?
It means that if you get any barcode stamped on you at all, you have 666 on you. So that could also not be true.
That doesn't mean anything. Anyway, So anyway,
I'm talking like an expert on the end of times. I just sat through a bunch of it when I was a kid, and I'm just trying to back it up with a little bit.
I love it. I love it. I can't wait. I mean, it's partly because it's like the end of an episode of it's like the end of the season, isn't it? You're like it's really exciting. Yeah. So I sort of, in some ways, I sort of hope I live through it. Not for my kids' sake, obviously, but for my sake. If we're going to go out. Wow, what a way to go out.
Right. Wouldn't it be cool if we were here for the end? Like if we got to see the season finale of life.
Absolutely. Like the fires of, everything on fire and people like running around screaming and everybody shagging each other. It's going to be great. So anyway, carry on. I think you're at 2.
Oh yeah. I'm going to cut this one off because I know I'm going to piss a lot of people off.
Oh God, Jesus Christ, really?
Yeah, literally. Oh, this is the wrong website to be looking at. I need to brush up on my end of time.
Did you Google stuff. End of time?
Yeah, but I was having a discussion yesterday with someone who was saying that this is a biblical punishment from a higher source, and I had the counter argument. If we're going just strictly old school, Old Testament, there was always a warning, and then a result. If you don't change your behavior, then I will send these plagues.
Do you not think we've had a few warnings? Well, do you not think, it's one of those things where you think, have you not got the message yet, guys? Because there's been quite a lot of warnings, and I'm not quite sure we're fully getting it.
100%. Well, was the warning last week? Was the warning a year ago? Was the warning 25 years ago?
Was it that the whole of Australia was on fire and like all of its animals pretty much burned? Or was it that the flooding generally was a nightmare? Or was it just the locust vibe? I mean, the locust thing, I imagine that was God saying, I literally wrote it in a book that locusts would come. They haven't come before as far as I can tell. Here's a load of locusts.
Did that happen to you?
What do you want me to do? No, but what do you want me to do? Do you want me to write it? Literally? I mean, do you want to put it in this? I mean, they need to get one of those planes, that like puts the light, that has the thing off the back going.
Yeah, Skywriters.
The end of the end of the world is coming, and then people will be like, "Yeah, it's not going to happen." But he just put it on a plane.
Well, I don't know. Last time we had it literally written in stone, the 10 Commandments. So, and then
I don't think that's going to fly anymore, though, is it?
No, because people are going to be like, "You made."
Hasn't got the reach,
right? And then we had Moses with his direct delivery to Pharaoh. But since then, we had Jesus. And
can we talk about the big book of lies? Because I as soon as we're on this topic, which I know that you can't use in your podcast, do you believe in God?
Yeah, 100%.
Do you?
It's morphed over the years, right? So I grew up going to a private Christian school, going to church Sundays, and twice on Sundays and Wednesday nights, right? So I got a lot of church growing up. So then the first thing I did as a young adult was to go.
That tends to put people off normally, but yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay,
That's the first thing it did, was to put me off on a journey in the other direction. Let's go find out about sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Still on that path, but they're there's a parable in the Bible that says, train up a child the way he should go, and when he is old, he won't stray from it. So I find myself like being drawn back to my biblical upbringing when I was a kid, but not so much in the way that was beat into my brain. Like I'm about a higher power. I'm all about like the Jesus story still kind of makes sense, and scientifically I think there's some proof to back it up. But am I sitting in the pews every Sunday? No.
I think it's interesting because I've got a strange relationship with the whole thing. I was very cynical up until about 5 years ago, and I was actually, my cousin sort of found God, and we used to go out and just rip it up together. And I was a bit like, and one day he turned around and went, "Oh, I found God," and I was like, "Oh man, come on." And the you know, like, Jesus, what? And it was one of those things where, and it actually sort of sowed a seed a little bit. And then we moved here and we didn't know anybody. And it was one of those things where it's like, well, where are we going to go that sort of gets us into a situation where we meet some people? So we went to church, and I just really I've always enjoyed, like, whether it's Sacré-Cœur in France or whether it's the local church. I've just really enjoyed being in churches because they're really calm. It feels like that the world switches off, you know? And, which is, you know, from an anxiety perspective, it's quite nice. And actually the local vicar, as we call them, a priest, I think, as you do, you know, he was actually quite cool. He was about sort of our age and my age. And he was telling this story, and it was quite funny. It started with like a story about, he started dating this girl, and you could see like the front row of old people like having some sort of like seizure going, Jesus Christ, where this is going. And it turned into a parable about like how the great vine in the house turned into something lovely. But the point of it was that it sort of made you sort of readdress the idea of what God is and all that stuff. And I sort of I quite liked it. Anyway, to cut long story short, we bought my wife's grandma is quite old, and her husband died a couple of years ago when we met, actually, just before we met. And this year we bought a cushion on Amazon with his face on. And we didn't plan this, but just because of the delivery times, it turned up on his birthday.
Oh wow!
And which was today. And as happens with things that you buy online, it's absolutely massive, and it's got his face on it. It's ridiculous. You saw the picture; it's like this big.
Yeah.
But and I just, it makes you think, doesn't it? That that's a bit weird. And you know, if that's all religion is really, is that things happen that you don't plan them, but they're a bit weird. That they happen a bit more than you would normally think. Then I quite like it. But if religion is based on judgment, then it can fuck off.
Right, exactly. If the worst thing that happens about going to a communal space every Sunday and having a community of people that are there to help you out if you need anything, or that you're willing to help out if should they ever get in any trouble, and having a sense of community, if that's the worst thing that comes out of religion, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
But the stigmas and the voting and the left, right, and all that other stuff, and like, you're going to go to hell if you
the wars, the crusades,
right, a little before my time, but yeah, I heard about that. Right,
well, it's not before mine. I'm a bit older than you, but
by 500 years. What are you, a vampire? But I think the universe is just absolutely too vast for us to be alone, and I think we're not the only ones trying to get it right. So I think it'll be really interesting to see what happens after this existence is over, and whether or not it's a simulation like Elon Musk thinks it
is. Elon Musk today said "Free America," didn't he? And in my mind, Elon Musk can go fuck himself, to be honest. But
it's hot and cold for me. Some days he's a genius, and the other days it's like, why are you shipping?
Well, I mean, he's great, but I don't know why he's commenting on how America should run. I mean, it's like, you know, anyway. Yeah. But he's sort of, it's not. He's just go make some fucking cars, or like build a giant, you know, catapult or whatever the fuck it is you're doing today. But like, don't, like, you know,
right? Or build us a ship that gets us off this planet when the rock hits.
Yeah, do that, man. That's great.
Yeah.
I you know, it leads on to a conversation I think about you know, about the other world, and I think that the sort of, it sort of links together in my mind in that, Wales actually as a place, and stop me, by the way, Isaac, if this is boring you.
I'm going to stop you in about 13 minutes, to be honest with you, because I got to go at 2:30.
Yeah. Well, I think Wales is quite a mystical place, and it's sort of, it's Celtic and very, 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 very old, and you get that feeling when you're here that there's going back to the Druids and all that sort of stuff, and the idea of a religion before religion. So a religion before something that was prescribed, something that was told, something that was administered or what's the word? Forced.
Mm-hmm.
So exactly what you're talking about, that all of that good shit, but none of the judgment and the bad shit. And so part of the reason for being here and part of the reason for enjoying being here is sort of connecting with that a little bit, Mm-hmm. And it sounds a bit, I don't want to get into a sort of hippie scenario because it lessens it, because I don't think it is that. I think it's really exciting, and I think that there was a thing the other day where we just went out and just respected the idea that the seasons were changing.
Mm-hmm.
Sat in the country and just shut the fuck up.
Right.
And it was humbling and brilliant and lovely, and maybe that's quite a good end to our.
Well, I have one follow-up question to that, because you're two things that I'm not. You're a husband and a father. So when you first became a father, or first became
and a great lover, third thing, and a great lover.
Well, we may share some skills. I don't know. Hope we never find out.
Yeah.
Or maybe we do find out. Who knows? Free love. Well,
I think you're forgetting that night in the sunset. What's it called? The Standard.
Yeah, well, I'll never forget that. And I think it was the Beverly Hilton. Anyway, when you first became a father, I mean, I'll let you answer this in any order that you want to, but did that change your, let's just call it your cosmic view? Like how did life change the first time you saw your first kid?
Well, you know what it changed? It changed this idea. It changed the idea, and it goes back to the conversation we were having earlier. It changes you from being me to us, and it changes the idea that, I used to be, and it's a longer conversation, but I used to get very depressed. I used to be at points suicidal, and very briefly, not something that I would that I didn't act upon, but I was really, really focused on my own self. Had a kid, and that takes that out the window. It just throws it out the window. It makes it sort of like, well, for me, it made it very much like, well, stop doing that. Stop that thought process. Don't. It's not really about you now. It's not about what you want. It's about what It's about providing. It's about protecting. It's about giving. It's about all those things. And I remember actually when I had my second child, that I thought, well, how much, how can I love my first child so much. How can I have room to love my second? And actually, what happened was that your heart just doubles, and that you have even more love. So now I've had my third, it triples. And so, I'll cry at any given moment, whether it's a Pixar moment where, throughout Pixar movies, but throughout, even at sort of, you don't have them here, but DIY SOS or any of those daytime shows that as soon as there's the end bit and everybody hugs, I'm in bits. Yeah. And it's sort of, the idea of connecting with yourself and humanity and what you're here for, and the fact that it's not about just you and all that sort of stuff, home, family, all those important things is probably relevant now more than ever, so I think that's what it does. I sort of, is it a nightmare? Yeah. Is it a pain in the ass? Yeah, of course it is. Has it ruined my social life? Yeah. But in the same way, look, I love you, and thank you for having me.
Well, and I love you too, buddy.
It's a nice moment to end this conversation, really, because I think that it is It's about us, isn't it? About people and whatever you're doing, or whatever successes you've had, or anything else. It doesn't really matter because, frankly, it's about you and me, about us, about what we're doing.
It's about the connections that we build and the relationships that we have while we're here.
Absolutely.
And then we'll figure out the rest when we get there.
Yeah, and I've had 4 glasses of wine, so
awesome. Well, on that note, it's probably time for a cigarette.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We'll go outside together in unity, but divided in actuality.
Right. I'll just I've quit on so I'll rub my patch.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
I'm quitting. I've been quitting for 25 years. But on that note, Ross, thank you so much for educating us on how to become a music video director and commissioner, and sharing your insights on religion and fatherhood. And hopefully you'll come back on, and I hope to see you in person before I see you back on the internet.
I hope so. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. We'll see you soon.
Love you.
Love you too, bud.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
This show's a piece of shit.